Welcome to your Farm and Home Show. My name is Joanna Coles, and today we're visiting with Dr. Nicole Gauthier. She's with the University of Kentucky Extension Plant Pathologist. How does rain affect plant disease?
That's right. Rain has a huge influence on plant diseases, and whether that's in the home garden, in the landscape, on the farm. And with that water, they are able to better complete their life cycles more rapidly, sporulate in terms of fungi, that means produce spores, and infect. So water is essential, and rain gives the water that those pathogens need. So to back up, Plant Pathology 101, right? In order to have disease, we must have three things. We must have the plant pathogen in place. So it's got to be there. If that plant pathogen is not around, you won't get disease. You must have a susceptible host. So some hosts are resistant, or some are just non-hosts. Sometimes it's cultivar, right? Think about choosing disease-resistant tomatoes when you buy tomato seeds. So that's an example. So we must have a susceptible host. We must have the pathogen in place. And then the third side of the disease triangle is a conducive environment, or the environmental conditions that the pathogen likes. And that's usually moderate temperatures. If you're comfortable, it's comfortable, right? So in the 90s, not so much, but in the 70s, 80s, that's a moderate temperature in the mind of a fungus or a bacterium. And then we must have free water. And so free water can mean rain, irrigation, humidity, fog. So that water component, and fog is enough. 70% relative humidity is enough.
Yeah, and so we've had a lot of water this season. And so if those other two are there, we could potentially see quite a bit of disease this season.
Absolutely. And think about too, when it's rainy, it's cloudy, and it's cooler. So even in our 90-degree weeks, our 90-degree months, it is cooler during those rainy conditions. Or think about if you're irrigating and you've got a shady side of the garden, or the inner canopy of a dense tomato planting, or the ground level of, say, a cucumber patch. So you can have those moderate temperatures and free water even if it's not raining. But yes, we've had a lot of rain lately, right? And that just produces the conditions that those pathogens need. So there are some diseases we know will come,
Mhm.
right? So early blight of tomato, for example, powdery mildew of pumpkins as another example. We know those will come, and we know it will get worse and more severe during those rainy conditions, right? Those cooler, rainy conditions. So if we know what's coming, we were going to use a preventative approach, especially with plant diseases. We scout less in disease management. We understand the history of our site, and we use preventative approaches. But sometimes we don't know what's coming, right? It might be rainier than usual, or we might buy plants that came infected and we didn't realize it. And when we have the conducive conditions, disease explodes. And if that's the case, we're using fungicides more as a band-aid, if you will. So we're suppressing disease. So always scout. So I'm not saying not to scout, but also keep records, know your history, and watch that weather, monitor that weather, try to prune, open up some canopies so we get more airflow. The more airflow we get through a canopy between rows, orient your garden so that you've got more air circulation. That dries out that air more rapidly. It dries out that morning dew, and it keeps everything drier, and that reduces the amount of disease. At least it reduces the life cycle, or the time between those reproductive cycles. That's why it seems like 5 days ago there was no disease, and suddenly you have a blighted patch. But that rapid life cycle is being driven by environmental conditions. That's temperature and rain. So that's why sometimes it seems like it's much more rapid. And the smaller, so those of us with urban gardens, we have more shade, right? Because maybe the neighbor's house doesn't blocks the morning sun and doesn't dry that dew off as quickly, or whatever. So think about location, making sure you get that drying effect. But sometimes it's just rainy and we can't do anything about it. So do some pruning, try to clean things up, and get that air circulating more rapidly.
Thanks for watching and have a great day.